Okay, so this is kind of part two of the underlying causes of PCOS. So we spent quite a bit of time talking about resistance already in the last video. And here, um, and we also, mentioned, talked a little bit about how inflammation and androgen go into that. So kind of the last piece to this is your gut microbiome. Because I think at this point, um, I think at this point, like you know enough. You know enough about the androgen piece, you know enough about the inflammation piece, because those are kind of tied in together. The other thing to be said about the inflammation piece is um, there's definitely research suggesting that PCOS is an autoimmune condition. And so um, with it being an autoimmune condition, this is just something else to keep in mind for reducing inflammation within your body, which um, we'll have a separate module on that. So the last piece to this is, um, well, okay, maybe one more thing on inflammation. Whether or not PCOS itself is an autoimmune condition, or whether it's the inflammation that's driving it. So the inflammation being inflammation within your body due to an undiagnosed autoimmune condition of any sort. So not just PCOS, but let's say you have some other autoimmune condition like um, Hashimoto's thyroiditis or lupus or Raynaud's or whatever it may be. Um, The other two pieces to this are overexercise and stress. We talked about both of those in the previous video, so please go back and take a listen to that. And then the last one is low-grade inflammation, typically from food sensitivities or seasonal allergies. And with this one, if you have PCOS and are wanting to stop hormonal birth control, um, one, eh, well, okay, so the ultimate, don't go here first, but if you are struggling, if you've stopped hormonal birth control, you have PCOS, you want to, you want to restore normal cycles, normal cycle lengths, highly recommend Amy Rapp's um, egg quality diet, and specifically um, get through phase 1 and 2. Um, and what this is, her phase 2 is an uh, extremely eliminatory diet. To essentially, what this does is it would remove any foods that are possibly triggering food sensitivities for you. It's a relatively short phase. I believe that one is only about 9 to 10 days long. Um, the good thing is that book provides the recipes for every single day. So you don't have to wonder, you don't have to come up with it on your own. You just, follow, um, uh, follow the follow the diet exactly as Amy prescribes for that phase 1, phase 2. And then in phase 3, what she does is start reintroducing foods into your diet. And then this is done in a way so that you're able to, the way this is set up, the brilliance of this is that you're eliminating all the foods at once. It's for a time that you're able to manage. Because, I mean, I think most of us, if we're being serious, like 10 days isn't that long. And, you can manage just about any diet for 10 days. And it's not like you're starving yourself. Um, there's food, there's real food, there's solid food on all of those days. Um, and then the way that the food is reintroduced, it allows you to notice whether you have a sensitivity to the foods that you are reintroducing. So it's not a stay on this diet for life. It's let's do this short term and figure out what you're sensitive to what may be contributing to inflammation. Highly recommend that. Not as a starting point, because I think for most of us, it's a little like we're already coming off the pill. We just kind of want to know. Like we don't want all the added red tape to be like, oh, I have to plan for this too when I come off. Like, no, just stop hormonal birth control, see how things go. If you reach a state where you say, hey, like, I really want to, is it possible for me to achieve normal cycles, normal, healthy 24 to 36-day cycles with PCOS? And now that I'm post pill, try Amy's diet. It's linked in the references section, her book, The Egg Quality Diet. Okay, so the other piece to this is the role of your microbiome in PCOS. A number of bacterial species are either more or less abundant in women with PCOS than in women with normal cycles. And these species are known to influence insulin sensitivity and inflammation. The easiest to read article on this is Female Reproductive Dysfunctions and the Gut Microbiota. It's provided as a PDF download for you. Additional resources are included in the references section. So for you to dive into the research yourself, the important thing to keep in mind here is that there are so many conflicting articles within this space, and there's conflicting as to which bacterial species is upregulated and which is downregulated, or which is more abundant, which is less abundant in women with PCOS and women that aren't. And it can get really confusing really fast. My go-to source, my go-to recommendation for you if you're dealing with PCOS is Pendulum Therapeutics. Pendulum is the only probiotic brand on the market that I am aware of. I am not, as of this moment, as of the date of this recording, I am not affiliated with Pendulum Therapeutics. I am very much interested in becoming affiliated with Pendulum Therapeutics, however, because I have tried their products myself, paid full price for their products myself, and know, I mean, they are one of two things that helped me deal and get past recurrent UTIs / interstitial cystitis / whatever the doctors wanted to call it after I quit hormonal birth control. So hands down, believe in their products. And the one specifically is the one that contains the bacteria strain Akkermansia. I don't remember what the bacteria genus Akkermansia. I don't remember what the specific strain is or what the specific species is. They're the only, I found quite a few research papers pointing to this particular genus of bacteria, this Akkermansia genus, as helping to support insulin sensitivity, like recovery of insulin sensitivity. It's a genus that is deficient in people with diabetes. In fact, this is the story behind Pendulum Therapeutics. Is the founder has a daughter who has type 1 diabetes, and she did a ton of research and figured out that this particular type of bacteria is deficient in people with diabetes. And again, her daughter had type 1 diabetes as a child. However, it's also been researched for people with type 2 diabetes. And so what I encourage you is, for the most part, I'm not sold on most other probiotics, because most other probiotics, it doesn't matter whether you're buying Jarrow or fill in the blank brand, they've got the same strains. It may be, or at least the same genus. It may be some proprietary strain, some, slightly different bacteria, but it's the same damn thing. Akkermansia, I cannot find in any other probiotic aside from Pendulum. And I also, Pendulum offers several different like several different probiotics. It's not just the Akkermansia. One is Akkermansia specifically. Some have Akkermansia combined with other probiotics, and even in most cases, at least one of those other strains are ones that I've had a hard time finding in other probiotics. So I swear by Pendulum Therapeutics. So anyways, that I think is all I wanted to say about the role of your microbiome in PCOS. Um, the kind of the last piece to this is, sorry, I'm just taking a quick look through my notes here just to be sure that I'm not leaving anything out. Um, the we talked about inflammation fairly abundantly. Oh, I think the last thing is that um, with PCOS, oftentimes this may be defined as estrogen dominant. And the reason for that is simply because your pre-ovulatory phase is so long. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have estrogen in abundance. But when we're talking phases of your cycle, the pre-ovulatory phase is like estrogen is the dominant hormone, because if you're having hormone in here, what I'm talking about is estrogen and progesterone only. If you're having one of those two produced pre-ovulatory, it's estrogen. The luteal phase, that post-ovulatory phase of your cycle, is dominated by progesterone. Classically, and this is where you have multiple luteinizing hormone surges with your PCOS, classically, you would have multiple estrogen surges during that pre-ovulatory phase. However, it's also possible, depending on how PCOS presents for you. It's also possible that you're not producing very much estrogen during that pre-ovulatory phase. And this goes back to there possibly being an issue with that aromatase enzyme, or possibly being an issue with the male hormones being supplied for that aromatase conversion over to your estrogens, even when the male hormones are typically elevated in PCOS. I think that's really all I want to say about that. I'm not a huge fan of estrogen dominance and progesterone dominance, because I don't really think that that tells you very much. And I don't want you to get hung up on this idea that estrogen is bad, because it's not. It's like everything else in your body. It just needs to be there in balance. So anyways, with this, we've gone a little bit more in depth into inflammation. We've gone in depth into the role of your gut microbiome in supporting PCOS. In the next video, we're going to talk step by step. It's going to be just a quick summary of what you're able to do when you have PCOS, in order to support a healthy cycle once you stop hormonal birth control. And we'll also talk about why you want to stop hormonal birth control when you have PCOS. Hormonal birth control dysregulates your blood sugar metabolism. And so if you've been prescribed hormonal birth control because you have PCOS, chances are fairly high that once you stop hormonal birth control, you'll still have PCOS. And depending on how long you've been on hormonal birth control, it may be worse than it was before you stopped hormonal birth control. And this isn't reason to fear stopping hormonal birth control. In fact, this is all the reason to stop hormonal birth control today. Um, so the synthetic estrogens and the synthetic progesterones in hormonal birth control both affect how your body regulates um, blood glucose. And so they feed into that insulin resistance. And this is something that I didn't mention back in that video. This is something that is true. This is why, because both of those impact how your body regulates blood glucose. This is why I wound up with recurrent UTIs after discontinuing hormonal birth control. It was because my body was unable to process glucose properly after I stopped taking hormonal birth control. And so my body was left in a lurch of how to deal with all of this suddenly excess glucose because now I didn't have the support of these synthetic hormones in helping my body deal with it. So, um, so if you're stopping hormonal birth control, what should you do or what can you do? What are your options for supporting your body and achieving normal cycles, especially if you have PCOS? Well, first is get a good probiotic. Go ahead, splurge, get yourself the Pendulum Akkermansia and start taking it the day that you stop hormonal birth control. I don't feel like you need to take it while you're still on hormonal birth control. You could start 3 to 5 days before you stop taking hormonal birth control. I think once you stop is sufficient. And the reason why when you stop, I think is sufficient is because hormonal birth control already dysregulates your gut microbiome. It already is killing off or has killed off and rearranged that population of gut of flora within your gut. Um, so I think just starting when you stop is sufficient. So that's step one. Step two is cut out the alcohol. Plan not to have any alcohol for the first week that you stop hormonal birth control. If at all possible, plan not to have alcohol for the first month that you stop hormonal birth control. This will go a long ways. I mean, alcohol in general is just, it's hard on your liver. It's, making these extra demands on your liver. It's contributing to high blood glucose levels anyways. It's something else your body has to process when your body is trying to reestablish the norm when you stop hormonal birth control. So that's two, is for at least a week after you stop hormonal birth control and preferably a month after you stop hormonal birth control, no alcohol. And it's one of those things that if you reintroduce and you start having any symptoms, stop it. It's going to take go ahead and assume that it will be at least 3 cycles before that hormonal birth control has cleared from your system. So it will be at least 3 cycles before you even know, what normal is for you at this stage. So don't rush it. Um, you know, please don't expect to begin cycling normally during that immediately after stopping hormonal birth control because chances are pretty high that it won't. Just kick back over to normal cycling for a little while because it will take your body some time to clear these synthetic estrogens and synthetic progesterones. There's actually a study showing that women 7 years after they've stopped taking hormonal birth control still have synthetic estrogen in their system. And I know for me, because I was doing at-home urine monitoring, um, I had really high levels of estrogen for months after stopping hormonal birth control. And my suspicion is that it was not endogenous. So it was not estrogen my body was making, it was estrogen from that the monitor was picking up. from that synthetic estrogen. So, um, anyways, if you're curious more about how those at-home monitors work, send me an email. I've, I've got a recording geeking out um, on the science of those. Um, so anyways, but I digress. So that is 3, like, just give yourself time, expect to give yourself time after you start hormonal birth control. But just know, if you're having, even during that time, what you're seeing should be just your cycles are irregular or haven't lined out yet, not weird symptoms. So this is something to keep in mind. It's the weird symptoms that we're trying to avoid. It's the recurrent UTIs. It's the suddenly having symptoms of diabetes. It's these other things that indicate insulin resistance that we want to really minimize during that time. So number 4, you may very well have to adjust what you're eating once you stop hormonal birth control. For me, I know I suddenly lost my sweet tooth after stopping hormonal birth control. It was just gone. Like, I did not crave sweets nearly the same way that I did when I was on hormonal birth control. I stopped craving carbs as much, even during my luteal phase, like even during that premenstrual phase leading up to my cycle. I stopped craving carbs as much. I would crave more like chocolate, like dark chocolate, like give me the cocoa. Where is it? And I mean the cacao nibs, like just nibbling on those during the premenstrual phase. So it would be very beneficial for you to go ahead and plan for ways to eliminate sugar from your diet during when you stop hormonal birth control. And especially go ahead and think of savory. For me, I think the hardest thing was savory breakfast, because I am so used to eating yogurt with granola and fruit for breakfast. For me, I have been eating vanilla yogurt, which typically has added sugar. I substituted plain yogurt and would just add in vanilla flavoring myself um, at home. And no sugar, no honey, no anything else for sweeteners. And then the other thing, because even the granola that I was buying was too sweet, I just started making homemade granola. Just have a very simple recipe in the references section for you if you want to try that. Because it was still something that I craved many mornings. I did notice a tendency to want more like eggs and things that are definitely more savory for breakfast, which for me was weird. However, it was also really supportive for overcoming those recurrent UTIs for me as well. Um, so, oh, and then the 5th one, start weight resistance, start weight training. This was something else I had for years before I stopped hormonal birth control. I had essentially, once COVID hit, I started doing yoga and Pilates at home and had left weightlifting out of it. And then when I stopped hormonal birth control and had those recurrent UTIs, and ultimately for me, what it was I wound up with a cycle consistent with classical PCOS. Um, and when I saw that present, I started researching PCOS, figured out the insulin resistance piece, and then things just clicked. And, from there, started researching how to support my body in recovering sensitivity to insulin. And so the 5th is weight resistance. Start doing weight training, and you don't have to do it a ton. Do it twice a week or 10 minutes, like pump some iron, move things that aren't just your body weight. 10 minutes twice a week. That's all I ask. All right. So that in a nutshell is 5 recs, 5 ways to support your body when you have PCOS and are starting hormonal birth control. So the first, add those probiotics, specifically the Akkermansia by Pendulum, into your diet. What did I say second? Cut the alcohol for at least a week, preferably a month. If you have to have it, limit it to 2 ounces when you have it, and plan for only 3 days a week. So, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, sip, or every other day, because sometimes like you can't take it back to back. The third, don't expect for your like when your first 3 cycles are long and weird, don't become disheartened. Just give your body time, stick with this. The fourth is plan to eat more savory foods, like plan to cut sweets and carbs out of your diet, because those, especially, like, it's just going to support you. It's going to support you in overcoming the insulin resistance. The other piece to this is also where, if you want to go deep, like if you're 6 cycles in and your cycles are still 44, 60 days long and you're 6 months in, this is where Amy Rapp's egg quality diet, that's where that elimination diet will come in. It is here on this fourth step. And then fifth, weight training, twice a week, 10 minutes a day. That's it. All right. We've covered PCOS. Be sure to check out the recurrent UTIs and interstitial cystitis. There's a lot of overlap with what we talked about here in this PCOS module. Also check out the module around diabetes. All right.